What is happening, everybody? Welcome to the Gamers for Life podcast. We're each and every Friday/Saturday/Sunday discussing all things games. I'm one of your hosts, Terrell. With me is my main man here, Arthur Thomas. What's going on, bro?
Not much. If you keep seeing me look to the left, because I'm hoping we don't lose power or anything, because we got a storm in town. Thunder. I don't know if it's picking up the mic, but it's thundering a lot. I know I sent you guys a video on the group chat. But yeah, doing good, staying inside, hunkering down. Glad I work remote, so I don't have to go driving in this storm.
Yeah, definitely got to stay safe out there. And also with us is the trifecta, or the one to complete the trifecta, my man Church in the building. What's happening, buddy?
Man, I'm doing good, feeling good. Just been some gaming. I had the pleasure of gaming with Arthur and Redfall earlier this week. Other than that, man, just staying alive. So
right on. Well, we're definitely going to be talking to you about that because you guys have hands-on gameplay with this failure of the launch that has unfortunately deducted me like 6 points or some shit. So I'm negative 6 points on my fantasy card. I'm like, fuck you, Redfall.
Oh, that shit's hilarious.
So I was one of the angrier people like yelling at my YouTube, like at my computer screen while I'm watching the interview of Phil Spencer. I'm like, man, what the fuck? You know what you did to me?
Dude, I saw like that group chat. I was like, dude, we can get negative points.
Yeah. And the next draft, someone's getting some goddamn points if someone gets the counter pick right. God damn it, that's changing. That's fucking changing.
I will say this. I think we should just mutually agree. Counter pick should be worth 3 points.
I was gonna say 5 because if you correctly say that something isn't coming out, that's pretty good. You know what I mean?
It's pretty good. But if we counter picked Redfall, I think somebody would have got plus 6 points.
No counter pick would have been if it didn't release. That was a counter pick release.
Yeah.
But in terms, you could counter pick the score, right?
No,
release.
Counter picking was if it didn't come out.
From my understanding.
So Drell wants his points because he counter picked your Suicide Squad, which is not coming out this year.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I was right, but I got nothing.
Counter picks or solely release date. Solely if it's coming out this year or not.
Okay.
Well, always until next year or so. But if you are watching us or listening to us, hello, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Gamers for Life podcast. If you prefer to listen to the show, be sure to subscribe on your podcast application of choice. And if you want to check out the streams, like we just talked about, Arthur and Church, they just did some streams via the YouTube channel for Redfall. And obviously some more games coming up in the future. Arthur did like an 18-hour marathon for Minecraft Legends available on there if you want to check out some gameplay for that game to see how it is. And all things Gamers for Life, go ahead and go to linktree.com/Gamers for Life. It's a one-stop link to all of our Gamers for Life stuff, including our TikTok. We just started our TikTok. So Arthur's going to be creating some clips. I'm going to be uploading them and closing the app immediately because I hate TikTok, but we do have a TikTok to build some more the bigger fan base. And here at the Gamers Life podcast, we read the news while you can watch or listen to what you choose by clicking on the links to the time code of the description of the episode so you know you can go to what you want to know. Or you can hang out with us here at the Gamers for Life podcast. We don't have a whole lot of extra stories today because we had a huge story, a few huge stories this week. Not only that Redfall has gotten, and I want to say it's an average open critic score of like 68, but Phil Spencer was on the interview for the X Gamecast via the Kind of Funny, the Xbox show, and has been the most transparent that I've seen him in a negative state. So just to kind of start off with this, let me preface this a little bit before I have one of you guys go. So I remember, Arthur, we used to joke about how, as you don't trust Todd Howard. Why would I? During his previous transgressions that we've yet to get over.
He is a peddler of lies and leather jackets.
Exactly, File 76 and so on. And we were so happy that Phil Spencer bought, but that he is now part of that involvement of following up with him because the acquisition of Bethesda. So we were like, yes, finally someone to look over his shoulder. If there's any bullshit or whatever, he can call out on his shit. But now with this Redfall release, and especially with the interview, as far as the context of basically him saying that they didn't pay enough close attention to how the game was looking, Arthur, is Phil Spencer the new Todd Howard?
No. He's not there yet. He's, for me, increasingly potentially getting there. Because sorry, I was messing with TV. There you go. Let there be light. This game is weird for me. And okay, the comparison of the is Phil Spencer into the new Todd Howard. He's getting there, and I showed in our group chat the clip that immediately reminded me of, Phil Spencer talk about Halo. Like oh, Halo will survive. Halo will survive this game. Or like, what do you mean? Why were you curious about that? Whereas for me, Todd Howard, he has a longer track record of it, and that's the only reason why I'm kind of minimally distancing those two, just because of the longer track record. And now that being said, even though Phil doesn't have as long of a track record of that, his splashes are bigger under his belt, like Halo. They're the face of Xbox. You know what I mean? Well, I know we'll go more into the quotes and whatnot, but Nintendo is known for its first parties. Like, I still live in India, but Nintendo is bread and butter to its first parties, and Xbox is increasingly becoming the flip of that. But the short answer for you, he's on that track. And now that being said, Starfield's around the corner, and Xbox has been pumping and delaying, but still pumping up Starfield. So they're Todd Howard, the lies of Todd Howard, and the false promises when it comes to first party titles with Phil Spencer are about to become very synonymous with each other, depending mainly on this next Starfield thing. Because depending on how Starfield goes, it's dominoes that keep falling for first party titles for Xbox under Phil Spencer's belt.
Definitely. And we will definitely get into Starfield. Yeah. Definitely want to get more into Redfall first. But first and foremost, Church, what are your thoughts? Just light impressions on, how do you feel about Phil Spencer? How do you feel about that interview that happened as far as just light impressions before we kind of dig into the details?
So is Phil Spencer like Todd Howard? No. Like, let's not disrespect Todd Howard here. Todd Howard has delivered great games. Has Phil Spencer delivered great games? We're talking about Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, Fallout 3. Like, there's at least a pedigree. Like, has Phil Spencer have great games under his belt? I don't know. I'll let you decide.
He saved Xbox in 2012.
And I will say, hey, guys, if I can't, I'll say this. I'll play devil's advocate. If I can't give Blizzard gruff for messing up their thing X years ago, how long we keep running Todd Howard for Morrowind, dude? Just saying. Like, I got silence for saying that was too long ago, and we're hyping up Morrowind. Like, okay.
What about Warcraft 3? Yeah, too fucking long ago. I'm not going into that argument again.
Bethesda's so big, right? Like, we got like Wolfenstein games, Doom games. The Elder Scrolls series. Even Elder Scrolls Online was pretty good. I know Fallout 76 was a stinker, and it was pretty bad, and Fallout 4 has some glitches, but there's at least a pedigree. Now, I don't think I like Phil Spencer. I kind of like his ambition in terms of building a community and making it more serviceable for gamers. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's there with like Todd Howard in terms of these lies. But it's dangerous. I think it's to the point as somebody new to the Xbox system that believed in the Game Pass, believed in Xbox setting up quote unquote dominoes or like quarter releases. Like, it's time to pay dividends, and frankly. So my impressions was one, shocking. I was like, wow, it's kind of weird that Kind of Funny had this interview. Then I did some research. They already had it lined up. It just so happened everything happened at the same day, and he didn't answer it. So kudos for him already having an interview lined up with Kind of Funny, and then going into the file and trying to answering the tough questions. So my initial impressions, it is good. I have mixed feelings, is what I would say, and I will dive into that a little bit deeper because I got a lot to say about it. So.
Definitely, definitely. Now, you guys had the pleasure of actually playing Redfall for a couple of game sessions. I was going to, but then I saw that the update was an additional 98 gigs, so I said, "Fuck that," and I uninstalled the game because I didn't have the right controller to do cloud gaming at the time. But I ended up buying an official licensed Xbox controller from Best Buy, so now I can do it. But I decided just to not even deal with it, given the reviews and my fantasy card. But tell me, you guys, about your experiences with Redfall, since you guys did some pretty long length streams for it.
So I'll kind of kick it off with the base of it. So first off, 5.5 hours. That's what I was looking. If you ever see me on my phone, I'm usually just, Googling something in the background, like, oh, what was that guy's name? I'm on it. Like, so I knew this would come up. So with Redfall, based on two streams, 5.5 hours. I only played the game with Church. I don't have Church done on the side, but the thing for me is I'm weirdly in the category of it. For me, is not as bad as people are dunking on it. Is it like, a 9 out of 10? No. 7.5, high 7, high 7. I want to say low 8. That's only because biasly I had fun with it. You know what I mean, Drill? I'm that minimum to a point, simpleton guy. That classic Roaster Crow was entertained. I was entertained. I had fun with it. Now, I will also say, like any cooperative experience, that was also because probably I was playing with Church. I didn't play it solo, so I don't have the experience of playing it solo. So a good chunk of my overall fun was probably because Church and Caleb was there too. That being said, on console, I can say it felt like a weird bad port. And I've mentioned this before. The first kind of flag or first canary in the mind to let me know how this port is font. If the font's off or super small, it's because it was built to be played on a screen a foot from your face instead of across the room. There was font scaling, so that helped. But there were things that it's the more you played it, 5.5 hours in, its bare bones started to show. Sensitivity on controller, horrible. The control, I think, sure, talking about you, but I know we kept talking about that all the time. I must have fiddled with it like a dozen times. I still didn't find something that fit. I eventually just gave up and rolled with shotguns because on controller it was tough because we thought we were crazy, but the hip sensitivity and the aim down sights, night and day. And there was only one general scroll adjuster. So you were left kind of trying to find that sweet spot, if any. I half gave up and just went with assault weapons and a shotgun, spray and pray and a hip fire gun. The map. Church was talking about this a lot with the map. And I was saying, I don't think this is the full map. And I did going back and watch a trailer I was referring to, Church. That is the full map. That is a small map. You can walk end to end in what felt like 3 minutes real time. And this is a small map.
There is a second map. I did some research after we play. So there is a second area, but it's not too big. It's not that much bigger than the first area. And what sucks about that is once you go to the next area, you can't go back. Oh, yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah. So it's, and then if you want to go back, you have to start like a whole new file again it's a mess, bro. So
the last few things I say, I know to a point, I assume Church and I are going to overlap and stuff because we played a lot of Coop. The difficulty, we immediately maxed out the highest difficulty you can play day one. There's a fourth difficulty, but it requires you to beat the game. We're in the highest difficulty. I will say day one, launch day, when we first played it, it was really easy. The second day we came back to it, it was noticeably a little bit harder. We got kind of downed a few times, but not die. There was one more thing. There was one more thing that was bugging me. I couldn't remember what it was. Oh, there's like bugs. Like the main thing to pick up everything is X. There's two more things I remember now. The X is that prompt to pick up everything. It's an RPG, but it's like a faux RPG because you think there's gonna be crafting because you pick up wire, you pick up duct tape, you pick up glue, you pick up wood, you pick up resin. It's all one master currency, like just one, like literally currency, which is weird because the store is the lost and found. I don't remember paying for the lost and found items anywhere in the world, but they're lost and found as the store. And the other thing that was bugging me, the cutscenes. There are no cutscenes in the game, Drill. All the cutscenes are still images like a novel. And the fact, it was funny, Church, I was watching other people play it. I don't know if you remember it, but after you secure the firehouse, there was that one image where we thought, oh, this is a cutscene because the graphics got all different. Everyone got fooled at the same point because it was like novel, like it looked like a page from a book. And then it showed like actual in-game graphics. And we thought, oh, okay, we have an actual cutscene. Nope, just another novel thing. And it felt out of place because this is arguably a AAA game. So whereas I was talking Church while we are playing it, where these novel-esque book images kind of work in like indie or stylized gaming, it felt lazy and it didn't have a place here in Redfall. You expect a cutscene and you're just like, why am I getting this no budget, no animation? There's zero animation. They're just scrolling past the page. That's it. So I'll say this. I minimally had more fun than people that are just like tanking on it, but it's when its bare bones start to show, it's a lot of cracks in it.
Yeah, because I think as far as what your point with the no cutscenes, the game was introduced with cutscenes. You know what I mean? So I think I feel like a lot of people were misled, once I heard that it was just kind of like still images, somewhere like Max Payne or When Dusk Falls. So definitely I could see why some people would be annoyed. It was like, where the fuck are the cutscenes? Church, what were your thoughts on the game? I know obviously you played with Arthur.
Yeah, so Arthur touched on a lot of things that I share similar thoughts on. So where do I want to begin? I think where we stand in gaming today is there's a lot of great games. There's a lot of 80s out there. And indie games are killing it, as well. You can play indie games are just as amazing as AAA games. So I think as gamers, we're in this really good spot that we're kind of spoiled that we haven't played a low 70 type of game in a long time. And that was very common 10 years ago. Like, I was a fan of Dynasty Warriors. It didn't hit the mark. It was a 70 game. I can enjoy myself. And that's what Redfall is to me. It doesn't feel complete. And I'm not making excuses for it. It's to a point like, my overall thought is like, why spend time playing this game when there's so many other great games to play? Why spend time with this low quality of a game when you can spend time catching up on your backlog of definitely like 9 out of 10 games you can do. The cutscene thing bothered me. It's basically like an alpha build. It's just like still images, just like, hey, there's going to be a cutscene here, but here's where we temporarily going to put things while we develop it. I've been playing a lot of Nintendo Switch lately because of Breath of the Wild. I kind of want to get my eyes used to 30 frames per second again. So going into the frames for this game, I was concerned. The art style I do like in Redfall. It was a cool arcane type of art style, as good as quality as Deathloop or Prey or Dishonored. And the frame rate didn't bother me at 30 frames per second. I put on, VSync to make sure, VRR to make sure there's any stutters. I didn't notice anything bad. But when you play in the game, there's bugs in terms of picking up items. The enemy AI is kind of non-existent, and I know that's been echoed on the internet. And we cranked it to match difficulty. When we did that, it got a little bit harder. But me and Arthur, we're such pro gamers. We just made an adjustment, and then therefore we could just like line them down again. It was a quick adjustment. It's not like a challenging tactic for us. The game is very shallow. In terms of the currency that you pick up, I like that streamlined into one currency, but what can I buy with the currency? I haven't seen anything outside of health packs, lock picks, and hacking equipment that you buy with the currency. So I'm shooting my money, like I'm killing enemies to pick up currency, salvaging items so I can basically just buy more ammo again. And that's the loop. It's not a satisfying loop. There's not a store of like, yo, get this material and I get this ultra rare weapon I can use against this enemy. It's very shallow. It has no depth. It's just like, okay, like why even bother picking up stuff? The missions, it has some cool ideas, with vampires themes. It's like a zombie game, some hidden realms that you can go to. It's not fully fleshed out in my experience. But like, again, I've had fun playing with Arthur. Now I did have the privilege of like exiting the game and going back to my file because I went to Arthur's game. So the progress he made in his game, I had to start over in my game, and I try to go to the Firehouse solo player. And it's not fun playing by yourself, especially if you have to redo the mission. If I'm like trekking to catch up to Arthur in the story where we left off, I'm like playing by myself. It's like, it's just not that fun. It's just like, it's kind of empty. It's not much to do in the world. Like you do safe houses to basically just like for fast travel in the town that you may not need fast travel because it's so small, you could run around.
And
then
there's other fast travel points in the game too.
Yeah, exactly. And then when you run around and do safe house missions, they're like, hey, do missions that this place gives you. It basically just gives you the ability to buy ammo and buy health packs at this one location. So it doesn't, it's in its infancy. It's like, hey, these are cool ideas here. I see what you're doing. You just need to flesh it out. What is the reward of doing the safe house missions? It should be something that actually comes together. And I haven't completed the game, man, but it's like I have no desire as of right now to necessarily go back. I mean, if Arthur wants to play, I'll play with him. That's fun. But like the aiming is terrible, man. I'm a first person shooter type of guy. I play Overwatch on a regular, and I'm like, dude, I'm not this bad at aiming. I play Destiny for God's sake. Like, let's go. Like,
right.
It's just
how you played the sniper character. I have no idea,
bro. I figured out the rhythm a little bit.
It's like you're using a musket. If I point it this way,
exactly.
I mean, like I said, it was. You like I said, if you watch that first stream of ours, like apologies, but it's like I said, we both can agree. Like every couple of fights, like if you switch from a shotgun to a machine gun, gotta switch sensitivity.
Yeah. And there's just quality of life things, man. Like if you have 3 weapons in your loadout, right? And then you have to hit triangle to cycle through each weapon.
There's no wheel.
Yeah, there's no wheel. I like Destiny's methodology with that. You hit triangle to cycle between 2 weapons, then you can hold triangle to get to your third one. I'm like, yo, we had that solution like 10 years ago. Let's just do it right here. What else I was about to say? Cycle. Oh, dude, there's cosmetics in the game. Your character has costumes, but like what's the point? Like
you can't see them because it's a first person shooter.
Yeah, it's a first person shooter, and you can't even emote,
Yeah.
to like see your
God.
costume at all. So it's just like, all right, that's cool, but like it's pointless, man. So
the one time I wanted to emote was Church and I went off on our own way to do our own thing real quick, and we got back. I was waiting for him. I was like, it was like the one time in life I wanted to just emote and wave, like hi Church, but like I couldn't emote. And there's another thing too, because like Church, I feel like as we both go on, there's little things that keep popping up. So Church mentioned quality, like not quality of like bugs. There was inconsistent bugs. Like every time you got out of your menu, flip of a coin, something would go on. It was like this game had a random challenge effect every time you got out of the menu. You couldn't aim down sights sometimes. Your map wouldn't work. You couldn't press start. I've never seen that in my entire life, Drill. I couldn't press start.
Wow.
I couldn't crouch. When you try to aim down your sights on a scoped gun, you would just physically see the scope. It wouldn't actually aim down. You'd just be like looking at a scope and a black asset because some games are detailed that if a scope is idle, you actually kind of see what the scope's looking at real time. In a lot of games didn't. They just have like a shadow asset, but if you would aim on sights, you just see your shadow scope. The other thing, Church, you made me realize when you talked about costumes, the script and the dialogue. Drill, in RPGs, when you play with friends, you get actual rewards like a health boost, a damage boost, experience buff. I know a lot of cooperative games give you experience buff. Drill, what do you think in this game the boost is to playing with friends? In this game, it's called trust, and it's on an individual basis. So if I played with Church a lot, we got the trust level 2, and I was playing I played with Caleb a little bit, and we were only on trust level 1. Jarrell, the only benefit to leveling up your trust is you get new dialogue beyond the 2 lines your character will say every single time. Raven.
This fucking Raven is the most annoying thing ever. So my character has this UAV ability where I can, highlight enemies, and I have to hit like left button on it. And every time I do it,
My
Arthur's
freaking
character be like, "Oh my
character.
God, is that a raven?"
Oh
And
my gosh,
I'm doing it all the time.
Oh
And-
god,
and
that
he's-
reminds me of Mass Effect Andromeda, where I'm like, can't this bitch shut the fuck up?
No, Drill, we're not even kidding you. Like, we talked about the sensitivity light and the thing. 5.5 hours of playthrough every time. Oh, that's no ordinary raven, is it? Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Corvus Voxus. Oh, it's no ordinary. So far the best. We were joking, but I think it's still true. The only line in the entire game I've enjoyed so far is when his actual Raven in a deep birdie voice goes Raven. That's the only line of dialogue I like. But my character, Dev, the yellow one, because they all different colors. There's a powerful girl that's purple, the sniper is blue, the engineer is green. I'm the yellow guy, dude. He is the most annoying, pretentious character I've played in a long time. Like, we were eager for Caleb just to join, just so my character would just shut up.
Like say something else.
Say something else. Every time Church presses left bumper, it's a UAV. It's you launch your bird and it reveals people. Who doesn't want to do that? Every time they go up against a fight against vampires or anything, that's no ordinary Raven, is it? Like all the time, dude.
Yeah.
And I would say this is a multiplayer game. Like the characters that you choose, the abilities by themselves are kind of boring to play. If I chose this character, I'm just like, if I'm by myself, I only have like access to 2 things to do, and it's not a lot of fulfillment. The abilities between the characters synergize so well, in terms of like you need each other to make it feel like you're actually making an impact when you're approaching a site. It's like you have to play with the homies at the end of the day. I guess the cool thing is like based on like your mission. If my character shows up by himself, he talks, to himself. But if Caleb shows with the character A, they have their own conversation, but what they would interact. So each, depending on how many party members are with you, expands the dialogue moment, which is kind of cool. So depending on the matchup, it's unique. It's just, I don't know if I would experience the dialogue just because I don't want to restart the missions with a different character and run it again. And that's what the game is basically wanting me to do. I mean, I'm a fan of roguelike games where I'm running things constantly. I mean, shit, when Diablo 4 comes out, we're going to be running things constantly, right? So it's yeah, I know we got it, brother. And but this game does not make me want to go back and repeat the missions. Even though they're easy as fuck, to be frank, but it's like, why would I don't feel like doing it. So
yeah.
I was gonna say one more thing. Church, you're talking about how this game, so some characters like really synergize to the point. What's the point of playing solo? If you really think about it, Church, that green girl with the robot and the heels, what is her existence playing solo?
Yeah, she completely support. Like she has no offense or defense against like vampires. So it's just like
that's a little specific, but Jarrell, for me, I love buddies. I'm always playing the turret character. I like having a buddy. But in this game, now there might be something like late game down the skill tree, but like this girl's robot buddy is just a distraction. Like he literally just wags his tail and says, "Look at me." And even during the initial gameplay, I'm like, that should be a turret. Like you have no reason in this day and age in gaming. It might be a trope. I don't care. That's my class. I'm the turret dude. And they didn't give me a turret. And instead that we were kind of going back and forth with the characters, but like we were able to immediately agree. None of us wants to play that green girl. We're like, I'm good.
Yeah. Pretty terrible. Skill tree is terrible. I feel like it's a bunch of filler in the abilities. I mean, like, we can go up 1 or 2, like 2 or 3 levels, but like the skills are so basic. Like, it ruins the gameplay. Like, just unlock it a little bit more, free us up. Let me do what I need to do. If my character is a sniper and I need to scout off the area, like I should be able to like send my Raven and have a big radius, of detection. But now I have a limited radius of detection, so I can't scout anything and then plan how we should advance, either from above or from below. It's just
and there's a whole skill tree. Not to go on too much, but again, it's like Church said, this is like a low 70s game, and I feel like people are bombing it to be like, oh, this belongs in the 30s, and he's right. Like people just kind of forgot what it's like to play a low 70s game. But like with the skill tree thing, it kind of felt not to a point sort of grindy, because if you remember, Church, a whole section of the far right skill tree, or half of the far right skill tree, because there's 3 sections, and half of that one, so a 6, is just little things to make the game feel less, not grindy, but it's the ammo section. Remember, like Church, you were constantly like, I need more ammo, and now Church is like torn, or like a lot of players gonna be torn of like, do I want to level up my power, or do I want to stop running out of ammo every 2 fights, which is quite frequently. So like there's, like I said, there's 1/6 of this skill tree is just dedicated to increasing your ammo base, and that's again that's an unnecessary nuisance in the game that shouldn't be there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's important to note the context around this release, right? It's not just that this game was, a low scoring game as far as it being an okay title. Like, this is a title that we were waiting for many years. It was pushed back. And the result of what it came out to be, it just doesn't make any sense that they released something this bad. And then obviously, the weird messaging around the 30 frames, and everyone's freaked out about the 30 frames. And then when people play it, they're like, oh, this game is just massively undercooked. Like, this isn't even, like it's beyond the 30 frames. Like, the game just isn't done, bad. And I've heard countless bugs from various different YouTube sites and whatnot, people describing their situations, whether they're on PC or they're on console, just across the board. And kind of transitioning into the Phil Spencer interview, I'm assuming you guys have watched it or a little bit of it from the Xcast. I kind of wanted to talk about first, like, the things that he didn't say, and then the things that he did say. So, like, I feel like while he did express emotionally his disappointment in himself, and some of the things that he didn't do, I feel like we still didn't get the why the game wasn't pushed back. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like he said a few things that kind of turned to be like cap, like, in my opinion. So as far as he was kind of pushing, like, I don't want to get in the way of their creative endeavors. Well, we're not talking about creative endeavors. We're talking about the game not being done. We're talking about the game not working. We're talking about you not being able to press start when the game starts. Like, these are things that how can you, after it seems like this just kind of went across the conveyor belt. And he did say that, like, they didn't pay him enough attention to reviewing it, and they did mock reviews. I don't know how they did the reviews for the mock reviews for the game, and they said, oh yeah, this is like 2 times under of what we thought, which is ridiculous in my mind. But to me, it's how do you not focus attention on a game where this was supposed to be one of the first big games for this current gen of the Series X and and PS5, just like this generation. Not to have that type of focus around the game. You already have Halo Infinite, which is a huge stink. You know what I mean? That was a huge stink on his card, especially being the goddamn mascot for the console. But that was kind of one of my disappointments for Phil, because as you guys know, listening, if you guys listen for a long time, we're huge Phil Spencer fans. Arthur and I were huge Phil Spencer fans. I'll speak for Arthur and I as far as that, but I feel like not really getting the why it wasn't pushed back, and him kind of saying, oh, creative endeavors. I'm like, come on, man, really? That's what we're going to say? But what were your thoughts, Church?
So, yeah, I think he answered it in a vague way about why it wasn't pushed back, but I got the message. And when he was talking about the quality control at Xbox, and if we take what he said at face values, is like, you push back games because of bugs, but there is the creative side of the stuff. Like, did we hit our creative goal? So I think the game had bugs. Like, the bugs in Redfall will be fixed. Picking up stuff in the start menu, I have no problem that comes in a hot patch. It shouldn't launch that way, but it would be fixed. But I think the fundamentals, just like Suicide Squad, it's already there. Like, the game, this is the game. There's no amount of delay that's going to improve what we're playing at this time. We could maybe launch with the 60 frames per second, and people would have been happy with that promise. But I think that's where you got to a point where they tagged in too late with Redfall, and the game was like, well, shit, it's not going to get technically any better. So, and it may have some bugs, but at some point we do have to ship. And that's just like business at the end of the day. Again, and that's how I felt with Redfall. It's very shallow. Like nothing is fleshed out. Maybe they could develop more things to the game, but it's like
Dead Island 2 is doing better. People are having a better time with Dead Island 2 than this fucking game. And we didn't think Dead Island 2 existed. You know what I mean? Man. Like just the yeah. But sorry.
I was excited for Redfall. I wanted it to be good. I wanted this to be the first stepping stone in Microsoft, like, you know, moving forward with hitting these marks, man. But like, I felt like Phil kind of answered it. It's just like, you know, if I'm being frank, I feel like they made a hard decision. I think it got to a point where they put all the focus and intention on Starfield, and Redfall had to fail in order for Starfield to succeed. That's how I kind of feel. I think that's where the resources went to, bro.
Hopeful statement.
At the end of the day. I mean, I'm not saying it to say that Starfield is going to be great. I just think that's where the focus was. I think the focus is on Starfield, bro.
You might be.
That's what's at.
You might be. Yeah, you might be right. What are your thoughts, Arthur?
It's weird because like it's because when it comes to that creative thing, I'm like, to a point, like Church, like when Church and I were playing the game, some of their creative decisions were some of the few positives in the game. Like the art style really works with it, you know what I mean? Like they're like their hands are like cartoonishly huge, but it works. It's not. I was even telling Church, like, I actually really liked their, I want to say like graphics, not the 30 frames, but like again the visual style, because I feel like I was telling Church we're not the pivot, but we're entering this like new hyper specific Uncanny Valley when we put games into this hyper realistic world like Forspoken. The most minimal things take you out of the immersion. Like in Jedi Survivor, people are saying like ponchos and hair just starts flapping in the wind in mid cutscene, and I feel like when you enter the hyper realistic area of game graphics, those are the type of things you see. So again, creative art style wise, I did like that dial back from that super hyper realistic. I didn't want to see like a 4K vampire. I wanted to see an arcane, half cartoonish, 70-30 realistic, unique, type of genre on it. I will say real quick to the 30 frames, like we said, we really didn't notice it. I honestly, Drill, in the 5.5 hours we played, there was only one time in the entire game I noticed 30 frames per second. And Church, that was when we shot that statue at that concert, and the statue fell really weird. Yeah. Other than those 5 seconds, I never noticed the 30 frames thing at all. So that's why it's weird when he's like, we're focusing on this. I'm just saying, like, well, you're kind of putting the blame on for me, the one thing that I liked, which is, and so the other thing too, why this is out of nowhere is, not only again, there was this hype of like, this was that big conference, this was revealed that big Xbox, like Game Pass, Microsoft, there's no E3, but Xbox is here to play. Sony's not here. We're Microsoft. Boom, Redfall, baby. But it's like, guess what? You like Dishonored? They're making this. And it's like, it's like a different version of like CD Projekt Red. Because like CD Projekt Red was a game we couldn't tell if it was good because it was so buggy. Whereas this game's like the other end of that spectrum where it was buggy enough to notice, but not buggy enough where it wasn't playable. And because it was playable, we just noticed the game itself is, like the Church said, is shallow. And that's why I'm half linking this to CD Projekt Red, because it's like a weird fall from grace, where CD Projekt Red was just like this buggy, you can't play it because cars are teleporting. Whereas this is, I can't crouch for some reason, but let's keep shooting. Oh wow, this is it. It's just so surprising from Arcane, and it's like you said, it feels like an Anthem, like not like Anthem, but like, I'm trying to think of another example of this. Where like all the focus has got put elsewhere. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it's all going in Starfield, and potentially bare bones crew, or lack of focus to Redfall. And that's not like this. That's not like to a point like Xbox from where we're used to. That's my thing, is like Arcane. If it was somebody else, we look into like with a slightly different scope. But because that was Arcane, it's this weird shock of like, why is this game just fundamentally bad or not too great when Arcane has made nothing but like award-winning games?
Because I heard they're using the newer Unreal Engine, and I don't know if that has anything to do with why this is such a crippling experience when they were working on it. There's just a lack of experience, you know. And Phil did say that he didn't follow up with them on like during the R&D process, you know. And it was weird too, not hearing anything from Arcane beyond the 30 frame shit. You know, not like, hey, like they didn't even give their apologies. They just kind of said, Phil, you got the ball, run. You know what I mean?
He did publicly fall on that sword. I know a lot of people are starting happy about it, but it's like I'm mixed because I'm still sad this game isn't fun. And like, here's the thing, not, you know, I would say a tangent, but it's relative nowadays. This goes back to our old statement of here we are with a not fun game that's live service. So with this game that's tanked at launch, it's live service. Live service games means they're always online, so they're dependent on their player base. So what, if anything, is the future of this game? Whereas before, I feel like, I want to say like collectively we were upset, but like we were collectively upset, but like content of like, well, it's live service, that's the future. And now I know Bethesda was more in on the developing and publishing of Fallout 76, but I'll just link it of like we're 2 for 2 with Bethesda's name on a live service game tanking at launch. Now I know Fallout 76 eventually got its game going, but there's an increasingly list of live service games that just are not hitting the mark at launch and they're just slowly dying. Avengers is dead from Square Enix. 76 I know still has a decent player base, but like what's the future of Redfall, if anything? Will anybody care? And what's the timing of it too? Like we said, this year is stacked with games, so they may release, you know, a game-saving 2.0 thing, but they better release it at least 2 to 3 months after Diablo comes out, because if they release that 2.0 game-saving patch, you know, June 10th, no one's going to care.
Yeah, I think oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Church.
Yeah, it's just very interesting because it's like whether they're going to support the game like they did Sea of Thieves, and like what shape does that really take? Now, the studio, he says, though, they do plan to add 2 additional characters to Redfall in the future. That was like something that was already part of the process. Now, does that come with a new zone? I feel like you should release it with the new zone with like an overhaul, and like how long. It comes down to Phil Spencer needs to make the hard choice. Like, yeah, creative freedom with the studio. I'm down for new creative games, right? But at the same time, like, do you take the team that made Redfall, or do you put them back on a series like Dishonor, like, which is like something that people want? Do you go to known IPs, or do you have them just continue down this path? It's questionable. I mean, if we leave Redfall to die, is Xbox gamers going to care? You know, at the end of the day, like, does making it better improve the goodwill at the end of the day, or would we rather have goodwill on another good game? You know, at the end.
No, that's a great question, Church. I think for me, it just seems like when it comes to, you know, Arthur, you had a good point too as far as live service games, and I think this is more disappointing because it's more of a personal stab for Xbox gamers. You know what I mean? As far, especially when it comes to IPs that are supposed to, you know, flash out your console. Hey, this is a first party, you know, exclusive on your console. You know, where meanwhile in the Sony, you know, over at Sony, you know, God of War Ragnarok came out. It's great. You know, fucking Horizon, you know, came out. Even they had recently an expansion. It's great. You know what I mean? So when it comes to their first party titles, they're not having these fucking issues, right? So to me, I think that's what makes it more upsetting. Now, to answer your question, I would say it probably won't make the game any better, but I think everyone's so pissed off. And now they're looking at Starfield kind of being like that next train that's on fire, like coming towards us. Sad to say, I think if Starfield fails, Redfall. If Starfield fails, I think Phil Spencer's out of a job. And I hate to say that because I love Phil Spencer. He did so in 2012. Him saving the goddamn console from the turning it into a TiVo box, like in a Wii, basically, and him saying, "Hey, this is cool, but let's focus on games," and him having that direction and supporting everybody. You know, that generation, he owned that generation. Like he just owned it. But during this new generation, I mean. You know, he tried to do it as far as just under his power anyway when it came to Halo Infinite. Big failure, big nasty mark. You know what I mean? He tried to do some PR as far as, you know, Halo still stick around, you know, but we still have this stink of a terrible game, not just any game, a game that's usually, if you think of the console, you think of this character. And now you have another game that people were waiting for many years to get, you know, this $500 console really to show like, hey, we got a first party title, and they announced that it's going to be exclusive to Xbox. That's awesome. Fails, right? And then Starfield, again, 20 years in the making. We know that we know that the engine is, you know, they've been building it, you know, it's kind of a newer engine, so it's kind of like what Dead Island 2, how they kind of started from scratch, right? But still, 20 years in the making, obviously, you know, we know from history, 20 years in the making is not a good sign. It's the last of the Guardians type thing. And Todd Howard, you know, obviously we've had the conversation. Not everyone really trusts Todd Howard, rightfully so. And if this gets a 6, under a 7, I mean, 7 to me, a 7 is alarming, but if it gets in the 6s from an Open Critic standpoint, you know, Phil Spencer was sounding like his boss cursed him the fuck out before that interview. Like, some of the things that he said, I've never heard anyone say so openly transparent. First he was like, I get paid way more than I should. And then he was saying like, I understand anything that I say, no one cares. Like, the things he was saying, he was like, fuck, I'm almost on my way out the door here. You know what I mean? And Starfield, I think his position really is going to rely on it. Always he's going to have to slide back in another position, you know? And yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts? Do you guys think Starfield is kind of, I mean,
I have a question.
End all be all?
I have a question real quick. With this Redfall thing, I think, well, my thing is, what do you think will define a Starfield fail? Because, you know, Drell, you're talking about 6s and 7s. There's a lot of people talking. If that game's not, you know, not an 8 or a 9, you know, not a 9 for, you know, some people like IGN was saying that game's not a 9, it might be looked at as a failure. So
I think that's bullshit. I think that's petty bullshit in my opinion.
And I will say, like a mid to low 7. Like if Starfield gets a 74, that might be looked at as a failure, because I know there's bugs, but like I said, like Church was saying, Redfall for me as a whole did feel like a low 70s game, but like because of this new world war when AAA games have been out, you know, if playable, have a certain standard, at least that Sony's been setting the past few years with first party IPs, and Nintendo's been right there, you know, with, you know, Tears of the Kingdom around the corner. It's for a lot of people, it's like either Starfield needs to be like a home run, or it's a failure for, you know, for public opinion or for PR. If it's not out the park, it might fail the public bar or public trust.
So my thoughts is, when it comes to Starfield, is it a make or break for Xbox? It depends. Now, I'll get into the reason why. Now, I think there's expectations when the showcase comes up here in June for Starfield. You need to set expectations. Now, Starfield, it's going to have bugs. It's a Bethesda game, and it's going to bring it down, right? It's Bethesda launches with bugs, and we shouldn't expect anything different until they deliver something different, okay? So it's going to have the typical problems you have. Now, what makes Starfield great is that they're very open world games. You need to show that there's multiple guilds, or can you be a mercenary? Can you be like an astrologist and kind of stuff? And all those missions fulfilling. It's just what Bethesda, is it just Elder Scrolls in space? And if it's Elder Scrolls in space and it's done right, you know, because you can visit different planets, you know, I'm sure there's going to be aliens on those planets. You know, you don't need to showcase that. Like that's part of the discovery. So it can be a good game, but I don't think it's going to be like, you know, I think Last of Us is overhyped in my opinion, but like it's not going to be like God of War, you know, type of game. Yeah, it's not going to like be like, yo, this is the most amazing thing. It's going to be fine tuned because Bethesda games is all about exploration and the ability to do stuff. And if you can build your own base, communicate, and that thing is pretty solid, I think you'll be okay. And then you just keep launching DLCs, you know, for that game, just like Elder Scrolls. Just keep on launching DLCs, and the game will serve as Xbox. Now, if it doesn't hit that mark, the only way Xbox, in my opinion, can survive is what is coming up next. You know, if you release a game between now and Starfield, like a good game that's been on the shelf, like Hi-Fi Rush, boom, that's great. If you have Starfield in September, then Hellblade in December, like we're golden. And you can show that these other games are coming down the line. Well, like where's Stalker 2? You know, that was supposed to flesh out the content. We were supposed to get that last year in December, but you know, the war in Ukraine happened.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, yeah, it's a little unique there.
yeah, it's unique, and I'm not punishing them for them, but where is that game at? You know, like, is it kind of done? And like, we're going to get that sooner than expected. So the point with if it's a make or break, it depends how Xbox delivers message and really show a timeline of games coming out. Now, I know people didn't like the 12 months, but I need a 12 months basically again.
And it needs to follow through because he failed this last 12-month plan.
I need a 12 months, and then you need to show me games that we haven't talked about in a while. You know, like what is on the horizon? It's the same criticism that I have for PlayStation. PlayStation delivered on the sequels, God of War, Horizon, fantastic game. Spider-Man 2 is coming out. The biggest thing I have with PlayStation since the launch for the PS5 is they haven't showed me anything new. And that's the most scary and most exciting part about the new IPs. Like, what is next? We plan to get the sequels, but what is after that?
Yeah,
you know,
they're playing it safe pretty well.
Exactly, and they have that good. Yeah, they have that goodwill. But so I don't think Starfield's make or break. It may cost Phil his job, but depending on his line up of games that could come out in the next 6 to 8 months, even if Starfield's an 8, you know, 80, 85, and he has bangers after that, I think he'll be okay. But if it tanks and there's nothing to come, bro, I think he might be out of the business. Like at that point,
Yeah,
I know these aren't Xbox like first party titles, but they're in a category of exclusive. You know, Atomic Heart, for the most part, done. It didn't hit the marks a lot of people thought it was. I was surprised by it. It was on my fantasy card.
Yeah.
And this is on the other timing of this too, in terms of like, you know, like I said, Phil's job, this is on the tail skirts of this $68 billion deal being blocked or being, you know, held up with this European situation. So it's like they have a $68 billion investment plus multi 10-year other 10-year investments just now put on hold. And it's like, okay, how's Redfall doing? Oh crap. And so like the thing when Church would say like what else is coming down the road, it's like, you know, like 6 to 8 billion, they were banking on this deal. They went all in on this deal. So that's the first when you're saying what's coming next, that's the first thing came to mind. Is like, well, what was supposed to be up with this deal? Because we were here in the first week of May. This was supposed to be done in a month, guys. This was supposed to be done June 23. Time has flown by. A year ago, we were told of, you know, who spent 60 what billion? That was supposed to be done June 23. That's in a month. That's not happening. And now with Redfall, with Redfall failing, Starfield, now it's like having this like support of a pedestal of like first party IPs or exclusives. It's weird because as much as Drell and I say, you know, constructively and deservingly go on, what's his name? Sony CEO. It's at the end of the day, like Joe, like when I said we're talking about, you know, even though you and I are upset, you and I are mad because we're gamers, we're not his customer basis. At the end of the day, we were saying like I was like, you know, with all these quote unquote fails or mishaps, will he be like our job or threat? And you're right, correctly saying, well, relatively no, because the numbers being money is still there.
Yeah, numbers are great.
we thought the pricing and the rollout and the multi-year delay of the Sony PS Plus thing, which should have come out a long time ago, solidifying their own subscription services, even though we can shout that it was super delayed, it should have done a long time ago. The money's still there, whether the value's great or not, it's still there. And then at the end of the day, they still have God of War, Horizon, and all these great games on the corner, like Final Fantasy VI. I'm not gonna buy a PS5 over it, but looking from the outside looking in, I'm like, I want to play that game. And it's, top of my head, I can't think of many, if not first party, exclusive Xbox games coming out the remainder of this year.
What would you guys like to see for this conference?
I want to see more. I want to see more of what they've announced before. I want to see, and though yes, this might go into terms of fandom, but that's what I want to see. I want to see what's up with State of Decay 3, one of the games that contributed to me buying Game Pass. I want to see what's up with Outer Worlds 2. I want to see what's up with Avowed. And there was another one, I forget. But those are the games I want to see, because even though it was a quick reveal of a screaming zombie deer eating a wolf, I'm like, State of Decay 3, I'm all in. I love State of Decay 2. State of Decay 2 was, again, the game why I bought Game Pass, because when I buy it, it's on Game Pass. Boom. That was the game that got me on it. Outer Worlds 1 is a Fallout, but trim the fat. I love that. And Avowed. These are all three, for me, three major games I'm looking forward to. But all we got was cinematic teasers, which, as we know, can be years down the road. I hope no one's excited or eager for more Elder Scrolls 6, because Bethesda, I think rightfully so, came out and said, hey, we kind of messed up telling people it's going to exist, because other than that 6-second panoramic image, like, that's the only thing that exists of that entire game. Like, what you saw, that is it. There is nothing else going on for Elder Scrolls 6. But that's what I want to come to conference. I know a lot of people's looking for Starfield. I'm on the fence about that, but the games I'm not on the fence about: State of Decay 3, Avowed, Outer Worlds 2. That's what I want to see.
So for me, funny enough, I kind of want to see another 12-month roadmap. So this is where Sony and Xbox's difference. Sony is very first party, great games. Xbox now is a service, and that service is Game Pass. And this is what I might think would save Phil Spencer's jobs too. I think the metric is of him being successful is Game Pass subscribers. As long as that number's going up, they're making money. The news is news at the end of the day. But if we're maintaining like what we're earning each month and it's profitable, then we're good. So I need a roadmap of the next 12 months. And hopefully it's sprinkled with first party exclusives. If not, I really want them to be aggressive on Game Pass day one plays. If Armored Core 6 day one, Game Pass, amazing. I need Hades 2 day one, Game Pass, amazing. Just if you don't got games, go back to 2020 where you were very aggressive getting the day one's exclusives of big titles. Even if you had like somehow Diablo 4 day one, Game Pass, just announce it, or it's coming in July or something like that as well. That's what I need to see to fill out those 12-month schedule, because it is a service. It's the same thing with Disney Plus or Netflix that I have going on with HBO Max. Like, I want Disney because I know I'm gonna get these Star Wars shows coming up. It's been announced. I'm gonna get these MCU movies or TV shows, and therefore I have something to look forward to. So I'll keep the service. Xbox is a service, and show me what I'm getting in the next couple of months, as long with Starfield. Like, there should be some chances. Like, I'm a big Monster Hunter fan, right? If there's Monster Hunter World 2 coming out, make sure like, Xbox is going to get that day one exclusives. Boom, just be aggressive with it. You're about to spend $60 billion on like AKB. Just spend like $1 billion on trying to get these day one releases. Shit, if you come and show me that Star Wars Jedi Survivor from EA Play is going to be available in July because they already have that partnership, that's a positive win. I need, as not only do they need to deliver on the first party, but if there's a lack of content, fill out the content. Let me know that my subscription is going somewhere. To Arthur's point, we had Atomic Heart at the beginning of the year. we had Wulong Dynasty. Like they've been kind of consistent with like releases. I just need you to step it up if there's going to be a slog. I mean, if Hollow Knight Silk Song is coming out this year, day one Game Pass, please get me that.
If it comes out at all. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
It's on my game card. Please.
Vaporware at this point.
Dude, and
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for. What are you looking for, Joe?
Man,
What
you know what's funny?
what do you
The skeptic in me is thinking, I wonder if that is what led us to where we are now, as far as the last 12 months being day one Game Pass, and if that pressure or just however they were working on those games did not follow through compared to where they were in the R&D process. I'm wondering if that contributed to this fuck up of where we are now. But I don't have a solution for that, but a part of me is just thinking like, God damn, we're almost 2 of 3 fuck ups of first party titles. But I do agree with you as far as the 12-month roadmap. We have to have that. We have to have that field view. You know what I mean, of games releasing. And Phil Spencer did say that there's supposed to be new titles announced too. So he said stuff that you haven't heard from in a while. Said new things that are coming out as well. Those new things, I hope they're attached to the Xbox brand some way, shape, or form. So more than just new games. I would love to hear an announcement of a brand new Splinter Cell. That would be incredible. But yeah, I think what I would like to see, I would just like to see, show me that you guys are trying to not make the same mistakes again. You know, show me that you have the customer in mind when you're working on these games. Show me that you want to follow through on these projects. You know, show me that you know where these games are. It was a huge mistake for him to not know where Redfall was. That was a huge mistake, a huge oversight. It was like he went on it was like he was on vacation and he came back. Okay, what's going on? Oh shit, what scores? What? You know what I mean? Like
Drill, not to cut you off, I was trying to warn him. Remember, that was one of the first things I said when they bought Bethesda. I was like, Phil, you gotta be on Todd, dude.
Exactly.
He'll
Exactly.
lie. He'll
We talked
lie
about that. Right, shit on his desk. Do whatever you have to do to intimidate him to make sure.
I was, like, say, I went back to some old clips because, we're seeing these old, fruit come to bear.
Exactly.
And I'm like, dude, I called it. I was like, Phil, you got to stay on him. He's going to lie 16 times. He doesn't know how to count.
Exactly.
I told him, I was like, that's what I was worried about. I was like, I said it too. I was like, Phil is going to have to, and clearly, unfortunately, this has not risen to the challenge. But I was like, Phil, you're going to have to push Todd and Bethesda to do something they've never done and have a strong, like, working game at launch. Now, I know, like we said, this is a mix of bugs and just core gameplay not in the mix, but that was one thing I was kind of talking about. I was like, dude, Phil, you got to stay on top of Bethesda, man. Their games are good, and their games are good, but the launch it's a little tricky for them. It's a little tricky for them. So you got to stay on top of them. And it's like, I feel weird now that we're about to, I think, almost 2 for 2, if not 2 to 3 years, there's going to be some type of, like, not an apology, but they have to get in the good graces again. Because Drill, remember the E3 or the showcase, whatever, the year after Fallout 76? Remember that? And Todd was like, I'm told our game's buggy. Like, it's like it wasn't funny for me because I played the game, but like I don't like that we're now having another pattern of a potential. I don't think they're going to do it. You know what I mean? Like a potential. This isn't just a showcase being a showcase. This is now a showcase to get in good graces. And this isn't the first time in recent memory that Xbox has had to do this. They did it before when Fallout 76 and Todd was under their belt, where it wasn't just a regular Bethesda announcement showcase. It was like, Bethesda needs to get back in our good graces, and now it's like that's kind of the focal behind the scenes mood with this showcase.
But now but now, really quick, Church, I want to have you go. I guess my thing is that I take it off of Todd Howard for a bit, just because now this is Xbox's. This is an Xbox core, because we all know how sneaky Todd Howard is, but you guys acquired him, and that's a part of your brand. So y'all are fucking responsible for this. If Todd fucks up, y'all fucked up. We've
all had leadership roles. It's called accountability, and it falls on you.
Yeah,
that's real talk. We've all had manager jobs. That's on you.
Exactly. So now Xbox, I'm like, yo, you guys, this is y'all. You know what I mean? But go ahead, Church.
Yeah, I was just saying, Arthur, to the point of what you want from Xbox. My question is that I know you want status updates on like, let's say, Fable or Perfect Dark, but like, do you really want to hear about games that are still 2 or 3 years away? Like, if they're not like coming out soon, like, would that when you went to your point about this showcase is about goodwill or getting that back, like would that be enough for you to be like, oh, I saw another CGI trailer that to establish the goodwill that you want? Like, what would make you feel good about that? Like leaving that, like feeling confident. Like for me, like I said, I need to see shit. I need to see shit like, hey, this game is coming out, we got it. Boom, 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 boom. Like, would that make you happy, bro? Like,
Well, here's the thing. I do want to see more, but I didn't say CGI. I want to see gameplay. Like
That's an
like
industry issue too. Because
Yeah.
that's a great point, Church. That's an industry issue. Like to Arthur's point, he said a last episode or episode before, we gotta stop seeing the CGI bullshit when you start seeing gameplay. Like that's crazy. But go ahead, Arthur. Sorry.
But no. So Church, to answer your question, yes, I want to see more, but meaning I want to see it. I want to see gameplay. Like I want to see State of Decay 3 being real. I want to see what Avowed. I want to see how Avowed handles, because I'm in that category of like, now with Obsidian, they can kind of show me something I'm excited for, but let me see it come. Let me see it come to fruit. Let me see it come to bear. I don't like using that phrase.
Fruition.
Fruition. Thank you.
Yeah, I got you.
You know me. I'm like, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And I will say real quick, I know I'm always on Game Pass. I will say real quick, every game I mentioned, this is going to be it's going to be on Game Pass. State of Decay 3, Avowed, and Outer Worlds 2. The reason I said that was on top of my head is because those games have been in the back of my head for a while, and I just want to see that. I just want to see again gameplay. I would love to see State of Decay 3 gameplay. I would love to see what Avowed actually looks like beyond a 60-second CGI thing. Outer Worlds, yeah, again, is my one asterisk because they were kind of parrotingly upfront of like, here's our CGI trailer. I'm the narrator. And look, we show you a big open world to let you know how big the game's going to be. Is this world actually made? We don't know. So it's an asterisk. Now it's kind of a play on it. But with Game Pass and as a whole, like Church, you're saying gameplay. We need to start seeing. It's weird. I want to say we start seeing gameplay, but we saw gameplay of Redfall, and it did. So it's like, what can we trust now?
I know it's like because part of me is because then I was like, what if they had a beta? And I'm like, well, that might have made it worse. People say, play the beta, looks terrible. I'm not fucking playing it. You know what I mean? So it's like they're just fucked. They're just fucked from the get.
It's like there's almost for me. It's I want to see like hands-on gamers playing it, like Hogwarts. No one. You think I wasn't expected
15 million in sales, by the way. They just launched that new number. Crazy.
Dude, and I was a part of that. If you'd have told me, hey Arthur, I'm gonna bet money you're gonna pre-order the deluxe edition of Hogwarts, I would have lost money, Drill. And then again, what did Hogwarts do? It didn't do the lizard people death thing. No, if I'm not saying, like not lizard people death, but the lizard people, wow, John is down. We should go pick him up. Look at this revive mechanic. That's so fun. But no, they let different gamers, streamers, and whatever you want to
influencers.
Influencers, thank you. That's the word I can think of. Just play the game. And when I saw like multiple people's viewpoints on it, I was like, we got a game. Hogwarts is a game. And I pre-ordered it, and I don't regret my decision. And whereas with Redfall, I kind of predicted it. Remember, we showed that quote unquote gameplay, and they like slid to the wall. I'm like, wow, look at that wall. I'm like, no one does that. No one like, and like maybe the start of the game, Church, when we saw that the ocean effect of just, I'm like, that was pretty cool. Yeah. But we need to see gameplay because recently, I want to say over the past couple showcases, I want to say one of the positives we consistently saw, and I want to say it was the last showcase of Xbox versus Sony. I want to say that was one of the wins we put in Xbox's category because they showed a lot of gameplay. Like we saw Atomic Heart gameplay, we saw Redfall gameplay. I know those are two examples that didn't hit the mark, but they got us excited for those games because we saw gameplay, whereas other games it was just more CGI, more random stuff. No, Church is definitely right. Day one Xbox titles, put value into your service. If IPs are less and less first party RPs are less and less becoming your focus or something you can do right, then turn to the Swerve, do what you've been killing it with, which is the best value in gaming right now, arguably the best value in entertainment, is Game Pass.
Yeah, and let those other games cook a little bit longer. So when they first party releases, it is an event. It's a day to be appreciative, so to speak. But I think I think it's important to get gameplay because we again setting expectations. Like I've seen some YouTube videos of the community about like this game called Avowed, right? And they think Avowed is going to be like the next like God killer type of game. I don't know shit about Avowed, right? They have not just I haven't seen one gameplay. They haven't described. I don't even know what the game is. It could be a card game for all we know. Right?
Wait, I mean, the Obsidian game I'm talking about?
Yeah, Obsidian, Avowed, yeah. So, and I know they made an Elder Scrolls game in the past, right? But it's just like, are they doing that shit again? I don't think so. It could be something different. So the sooner we can get gameplay, we can set expectations with the gamer community. Like the Perfect Dark game. Like people are like, what kind of game that's going to be? I'll tell you what type of game it should be. It should be a Splinter Cell type game. That's what we should get. Perfect Dark should be a Splinter Cell or the Metal Gear Solid type of game. It should just take over the espionage genre as a whole. She's a spy, let her do spy shit, and it'd be fantastic. You know, like Fable. I don't know what type of Fable game we're going to get, but I have a feeling what it's going to be. It's going to be Fable, but it's going to be like a Souls-esque type of Fable. I guarantee it. Like mark me down. It's going to be like a From Software type of Fable game with magic and stuff, and you can play with your friends, and hopefully the humor is still there. But I don't know if Playground can deliver that since they just make driving games. Like, who the fuck knows?
The average combat of most RPGs, they are changing. I know this one's an outdated example, but I'm playing Kingdoms of Amalur Reawakened, and I still say that type of gameplay I liked more than Dragon Age at the time. We're seeing it now with Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy 16 is becoming more of a platinum game than a Final Fantasy. It's becoming more of a platinum game than most platinum games, and it would be smart. It would be smart for them. I mean, like this at face value. Look at the success of Elden Ring. The previous, I would say, as popular as the previous Dark Souls games were, they were never, I want to say, mainstream. They were like in this crazy popular, but yet almost niche category. I know that's like, oxymoron, but it kind of felt like that for the large scale. And all of a sudden, Elden Ring comes out, and people, and it just kills it. So, cat's out of the bag. Souls-like gameplay is no longer a sideline, huge, massive thing. It's the thing, and Armored Core 6 is going to benefit like crazy from it. I think Fable needs to update its combat because like I said, I feel like the overall gameplay expectation, or now what we're used to, I shouldn't say, of RPGs has gone up, and I can't wait for 16 to launch.
Yeah, 16. Yeah, 16 looks amazing. And Fable has a lot of potential because it could be that third person over the shoulder single player game that we're kind of looking for from Xbox. I just like, show me what it is, show me the mechanics of what I'm trying to get into. I do appreciate Xbox's approach to not try to mimic PlayStation, try to make their version of God of War. I think Phil Spencer talked about that on the show, about letting the studios have creative control and create something new. I think it's a smart, wise, business-wise, because you don't know what game you're going to get. And therefore, if a new way of playing, a new idea just takes off, Xbox owns that idea type of thing. And they will just go after that. And I think that's what they're hoping to hit. Like, one of these studios got to bring something to the masses that is just going to, people are going to vibe with.
I will say this, Church, you definitely killed it with Siphon Filter, because one of the lesser news, there was this random free-to-play freemium type of Ubisoft game announced, and the number one comment, where's Splinter Cell? You know what I mean? I did it again. I keep mixing up Splinter Cell and Siphon Filter, but that was the number one comment with that Ubisoft announced as a free-to-play game, and everyone's like, cool, who cares? Where's my Sam Fisher?
Now, let me ask you guys, this is my last question here before we wrap up the podcast. Are we going to hear from Gears of War 6? Are we going to hear anything? Update? CGI, even though we don't want to see CGI, but will we see something? Because
I
that's
think-
to me, that's the next big IP of Xbox. It's Gears.
I think it's a cool. I think it. We.
I feel like if we do, we'll be in an Elder Scrolls 6 situation where, hey, this game is going to exist. We'll show a thing, but don't hold your breath of when it's going to come out, because that game was actively not being worked on for years, and we've talked about it before.
I think the Gears of War that we would get would be a remastered. I would love for them to take Gears of 5 gameplay mechanics, graphics, and remake 1, 2, and 3. You know, that type of thing. I think that's the news we'll get.
That would be
You know,
cool. I can
And
see
then
that.
maybe like a screenshot of Gears of War 6 in development. So I think that's okay for me as a fan. Coalition has delivered. Cool. If we just get a title screen, I'm okay with that. I'm not gonna be upset. Like, I know it's coming down the line, but I think we'll get a remastered or something like that. I think refreshing those titles would be great for Xbox. You know, keeping it fresh. Other than that, I don't know. I mean, I'm always a fan of the Coalition. I think they bring the best out of the Xbox console. It's the prettiest game they have. I just want that studio to be given more opportunity to make a different type of game. But that studio may be forced to play in safe to make Gears of War 6, which is fine, man. Like, I love Gears. It's a fun ride every time you play a Gears game, man. It's fun.
Yeah.
Number 5 was really fucking good. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Dude, one of my top 3 screams in history of gaming, Drell was there for.
Yeah, me, Victor, and Arthur.
I was the robot. I want to go collect ammo from the wall, and the wall came alive. So I mean it.
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead.
No,
I do.
I'm going to say something. I'll kind of branch off. So continue.
Yeah, I guess I'm branching off either. I was like, I do want Xbox to secure an IP that we love. I know they have the Indiana Jones title with, Bethesda and Machine Games.
Oh,
Wolfenstein. Huh?
I forgot that was existing.
Yeah. So I'm like, I kind of want to see some stuff of that. Like, get another IP, get something from DC or Marvel or something.
I have an idea for an IP.
Oh,
I don't think we're gonna hear about it, but this was my epiphany phase. So I was like, I remembered something. We won't see it, but I want to see it. I feel like we need to see it soon. Drell, your boy, where's his dream project? Kojima. You remember that reveal years ago?
Dream project.
You remember there was a
abandoned?
Microsoft Microsoft
Yeah.
conference that ended with Kojima saying, I'm working on a dream project with Microsoft now.
Yeah.
Where are we at with that?
Yeah. What's the update with that?
Oh man, Drew, I just realized, waiting for Kojima announcements. Is this the world you've lived in for so many years?
More confusing storylines that I don't understand.
Dude, I just realized, waiting for Kojima to say something. I've barely dipped my foot in this pool. I don't want to be here, and Drell's been soaking it.
I gotta hand you a ball of yarn so you can connect all the dots on your on your corkboard.
I'll say that's another thing. Like, that's another thing. Like, dude, I'm glad you're going to Pinocchio premieres, and you're meeting Jordan Peele. But Kojima, where's this game at?
Gotta listen to that podcast. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, dude, do a bye week and work on this game. Because I just realized something that may be something to kind of potentially blow the showcase out of the water. Is this Kojima thing that ended that conference with a bang? Like, that was a huge way to crescendo that conference. Was Kojima working on a quote dream project with Microsoft, and that crescendoed a lot of our topics. We went off with Sony and the not I can say failures, but the mishaps of Sony was them losing to Kojima, and we're talking about he's with Xbox now, but that's been years later. Like, what's happened? Did COVID stall whatever he was working on? Because now I'm in the category of not apples to apples with how deep into the world of Kojima Drell's in, but I'm like, dude, Redfall just messed up. Kojima, help us.
Yeah, he's our only hope, it seems like. All right, folks. Well, that's going to wrap it up here for the Gamersly podcast. I think we had a pretty solid convo without shitting too hard, but just giving fair straight tooth and nail critiques that are definitely necessary for the state of affairs for Xbox. So we'll just have to wait and see. First and foremost, I'd like to thank my co-hosts on this journey in this crazy year so far. Thank you thanks for being here, y'all. All right, folks. Well, that's going to be it. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.